Hey everybody, Josh Peck here. Hope you're doing well. Well, the thing that we've been warning about for years, actually longer than I've even been in ministry, has taken another major step forward. So many of you know now that Trump has announced that he is going to release files, government files, that have to do with UAPs, the UFO phenomenon, all of that stuff. Now, this isn't exactly official disclosure just yet, but it is one more step towards that. One big step. In fact, in many ways, we almost live in a different world today than we did yesterday. And at the time of this recording, the announcement was made yesterday. Just a couple of hours before that, I interviewed L.A. Marzulli about disclosure. Many of you know who L.A. Marzulli is. If you're a fan of this channel, then you know exactly who he is and why I would want to interview him on such a topic. But we didn't realize when we did the interview that Trump was going to make that announcement in just a couple of hours. So once the announcement was made over social media, I immediately texted LA and I said, our interview is a lot more timely than we thought. And he said, bingo. Now LA did a short video about it, and he gave me permission to play it here. So watch this.
Hey folks, L.A. Marzulli here. UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. This is, I believe, the coming great deception. This just came across my desk. In the last few minutes, I've had numerous emails and texts. I'm going to read it to you. This seems to be real. It's from Donald Trump at Real Donald Trump. So it's his site. This is what he says. Based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life. It's hard to believe, right? Unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. So the bottom line is, we've just had, in some ways, we've had disclosure. In other words, is it full disclosure? No, not yet. I think I'm waiting for July 8th or 9th, like I've been saying, the 79th anniversary of the Roswell crash, which, by the way, was not a weather balloon. So it's coming down. It's coming down. And once again, if you're a pastor and you're watching this, we'll give you free resources. We'll give you free resources, access to all 10 of our UFO films. Think about that. Also, the rungs of disclosure. By the way, the Obama admission of aliens are real is another rung on the ladder of disclosure. Rungsofdisclosure.com. I truly believe that this is the coming great deception. And I will quote a scripture, 1 Timothy chapter 4. I want to thank my friend Mondo Gonzalez for pointing this out to me weeks ago. And it says this: the Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrines of demons. Now, if you're not a Christian and you read that, well, that sounds like, hocus pocus stuff. If you're a Bible-believing Christian that studied prophecies for 46 years, you know what is written in God's word will come to pass. We are here. How do we know that? Israel is God's prophetic time clock. Israel is God's prophetic time clock. End of story. That's what it is. Do I give them a pass on everything they do? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But at some point in the near future, they will look on him whom they have pierced, that's Jesus, and mourn for him as an only son. All Israel will come in at some point, but they're not there yet. So do I give them a pass? Absolutely not. Are all nations corrupt? All nations are corrupt. Trust me, they are. They are. So is Israel. But they're God's prophetic time clock. So we are now in the last days, the last of the last days. Wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, troublesome times. We're here. No doubt about it. We are here in a window of time that, in my opinion, absolutely unprecedented. You go back 30 years ago when I started talking about this and writing books and all this other stuff, and people would, whoa. Now the President of the United States has stated that they're going to investigate the whole UAP UFO phenomenon. It's happening. I believe this is the coming great deception. This is a mega lever. This changes everything. When disclosure is revealed, it changes everything. It changes the entire global paradigm in a nanosecond. All of a sudden, we're not alone anymore. How does the Christian church bounce back from that? Not the Catholic Church, because they're not believing in this stuff. But the evangelical community, we have a different take on all this stuff than the Catholics do, and that's fine. That's fine. Folks, it's coming down. Stay tuned. More updates. Hard to believe, but it's happening. UFOs are real burgeoning, not going away. This is, and I've been saying this for years, the coming great deception. I am L.A. Marzulli.
All right. So it's really, really important now more than ever for us Christians to understand what's going on and also to know how to teach it to the world. By and large, the world isn't going to listen to us. A few might, but by and large, they're not going to. So we want to, for lack of better terms, stack the odds in our favor as much as possible. And we can do that in a few different ways. I think unity is a big part of that, but I'll get to that in a minute. First off is just recognizing what these things are and what they're not. So when I say these things, I mean the UFOs flying in the sky, the beings that are abducting and torturing people. That's what I'm talking about. And when we have a biblical lens and frame everything through that, it tends to make more sense. And really, the difference in opinion among Christians tends to be, well, how deep into those waters do you want to go? So I think the best place to start is Genesis 6. If you know anything about the alien abduction phenomena, then you probably have heard of a hybridization program between so-called aliens and us, humans. Typically, these beings have told people that, they can't reproduce, some cataclysm happened, and so they need us in order to reproduce. And, there's other reasons for it that are given. That's one of the main ones. But what they're doing is they're taking their genetics and mixing it with mankind's genetics. Where do we see that in the Bible? There's one place in the Bible, and it is referenced multiple times, but it's the one event that we have in the Bible where this kind of thing happens, and it's Genesis 6. It's where the fallen angels fell, somehow inhabited reproductive physical bodies. We don't know exactly the mechanics of how that works, but if we assume that fallen angels are extra-dimensional beings, and they likely are, I think that there's a lot of good evidence for that, but let's just say that they have that ability somehow, because Genesis 6 says that they fell to earth, they rebelled against God, they mated with human women, and they created these giants called the Nephilim. So that's the one instance in the Bible that we get. Now, we can go further into extra biblical texts, which help fill in the gaps. It gives us an idea of what contemporaries with Jesus would have been teaching and believing. And in fact, the book of Enoch is quoted in the Bible in a couple different places. And that gives a little more information. I've talked about it a lot on this channel, and I know many of you clicked on this channel to get that interview with L.A., so I don't want to take too long in this intro here, but I think it's important to lay the groundwork before we get into the two-part interview with L.A. Marzulli. But Enoch gives us a little bit more information that these are a series or a type of fallen angel called watchers. Now, when I say fallen angel, there are people out there that'll say, well, technically it's not angels because angel is a job. But I think it's really helpful to, whether it's technically right, technically correct, dictionarily, definitionally correct, what's the modern parlance that most people can understand? So I say fallen angel and yeah, technically angel is a messenger. It's a job. It doesn't really denote like what would you call it, species of angel. It's a task, like if you were to call somebody a lawyer, well, anybody can be a lawyer, man, woman, no matter what they look like, no matter what race, anybody can be a lawyer. Angel seems to be like that too. But just because for the betterment of the most amount of people of understanding what we're talking about here, I just say fallen angels, or sometimes I'll say watchers. I actually have a book, Return of the Watchers, that talks a lot about what's going on right now with all this disclosure stuff. But basically, these fallen angels, they rebelled against God, and they mated with human women to create their own children. There's lots of ideas of what the motivation behind that was, but suffice it to say, it happened. So they created these hybrids. Well, when you go further into the extra biblical text, it also says that they made hybrids of other creatures as well. Anyway, and there's other extra biblical texts that talk more about that. But that's the basic gist of it. So when we look at the alien abduction phenomenon today and compare it with that, they're nearly identical. It's just different packaging. In the ancient past, people looked at these things as gods. They looked at these fallen beings as gods, and then the children would be like demigods. And all religions, all other cultures have stories like that. Well, now our modern culture calls them, aliens, because they're assuming that these are creatures from another planet like us, like how we're from Earth. They're assuming that these creatures are physical like us, not having anything to do with spirituality. I mean, they do inject New Age stuff into that, but just that they're biological entities like us from some other planet, and they have come here and they're doing all these nefarious things, and there's different species from different planets. So, and apparently they've been coming here a long time. That's kind of like the ancient aliens definition of the phenomenon. And they'll say that people in the ancient past were misinterpreting what they were seeing. They weren't seeing gods or fallen angels or anything. They were actually seeing extraterrestrials from other planets and just misinterpreting it. So they say that our Bible is wrong. I say they're misinterpreting it today. I'm going to trust the Bible over George Tsoukalos or, somebody like that. We're misinterpreting it today because there's too much that doesn't make sense. And again, I've written about this a lot. Too much to get into in this intro, but there's too much about that interpretation that does not make sense. But then when you compare it with how the enemy works, our spiritual enemy, it lines up really well. Now again, I say fallen angels. There are people that say that this is demonic, and I give them a pass on that because, hey, you're on the right track. And that's why I said before, it depends on how deep you want to wade into these waters. There's a lot of Christians that believe that demons and fallen angels are the same thing. I disagree, but I'm not irritated or annoyed by the fact that they believe that. I grew up like that. I used to believe that. But just the fact that somebody can look at the alien phenomenon and know that there's something nefarious and evil about it, and if the word they use is demonic, fine, But that's where our job comes in as teachers, to lovingly, with humility, teach people if they want to know more. Some people only want to go in ankle deep, and that's okay, as long as they realize that it's not it's not extraterrestrials. It's not they're not here to enlighten us into a higher form of consciousness. Like, as long as they can see there is something evil about this isn't of God. I'm going to go with God. I'm going to go with Jesus. And that's all I care to really know about it, then that's fine. An example I have is quantum physics. So a lot of you know that that's a really big interest of mine, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody's really interested in that. It doesn't mean they're stupid, or it doesn't mean that at all. They just don't really have much of an interest. That's perfectly fine. So there's a New Age teaching based on what's called the double slit experiment. Many people might have an idea, at least, of what that is. Basically, and many of you have heard this, when you observe a particle, it behaves differently than when that particle is not observed. So New Age will go in there and say that means that we're basically kind of like our own little gods, and we can create reality around us. Whatever we imagine, whatever we strive for, we can bring that in. We can manifest that. It's like that. Now, for me, I know what's going on with the double slit experiment, and I could explain it. And it is technical, and it is nuanced. But for me, as long as somebody recognizes, okay, the double slit experiment, I'm not my own God. Jesus Christ, that's who I serve. There's no God except God. I don't create reality. I reject that New Age teaching. As long as somebody is there, great, right? Great. If they want to go deeper, and not everybody wants to, and that's fine. If they want to go deeper, if they have that interest in that drive, they can, and they can learn more about why the double slit experiment works the way it does, how it really has nothing to do with this observation thing. There is a reason behind it. It has nothing to do with New Age. It has nothing to do with spirituality. It's quantum physics. It's nuanced. It's complicated, but there is an answer. So if somebody wants to dig more into it, they can. But as long as somebody, in my opinion, as long as somebody recognizes that teaching about us manifesting our own reality is of the devil, is evil, I'm happy. I'm good. Similarly, with the UFO, alien abduction, all of that stuff, if somebody can just recognize that that's evil, Jesus Christ is the true way, whatever this is, I might not know exactly how to perfectly use every technical term and nuance, but I recognize that it's evil and it's being used to deceive people. Great, you're on the right track. If you want to go deeper, go deeper. If you don't, that's okay. You can set that aside. But I would caution people who don't want to go deeper with it. You shouldn't really be teaching on it, because it can result in some interpretations that aren't necessarily in line with the evidence that everybody sees. So you'll recognize in part 2 of my interview with LA, we talk a lot about the idea that these things are just spiritual projections and not material at all. And neither myself nor LA believe that. We believe that there is a physicality to it. We believe that things have been recovered, physical things. So what do we do with that? And so we talk about that. But that, to me, in my opinion, that to me would be an example of somebody who could potentially be causing more harm than good, because you have to deny a lot of stuff to have a view like that, and that could end up hurting victims of these encounters, of these abuses, really, because in a sense you're telling them that it's not real, and anybody who has been through this knows it's real. They might not know how to interpret it, but if you tell them it's not real, they're going to go somewhere else. I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I dealt with sleep paralysis really bad, and I would have what I considered demonic attacks. I didn't really know how to think about it, and I didn't know how to apply that to the Bible. The church that I went to, we didn't really get too much into the Old Testament. It was pretty much New Testament stuff, how to live a good life, kind of like the basic stuff. And I'm not ragging on them too much, because they're the ones that introduced me to Jesus in the first place. So I'm not ragging on them too much. But at the same time, when I would ask those people about sleep paralysis, "Oh, Josh, it's just a nightmare. It's just in your head. It didn't really happen." And I would say, but stuff physically moved in my room. Like I always kept my door closed at night. My door was open. I remember seeing a creature open the door and come in physically, or at least seemingly physically to me. I remember it putting its hand or claw on the bed and feeling the bed shift down under its weight. There was something physical with that. And I didn't know really how to process it but because the church that I grew up in was really entrenched in this nothing can be physical thing, nothing that's spiritual can affect anything spiritual, or nothing that's spiritual can affect anything physical, excuse me. Because they were so entrenched in that, they weren't answering my questions, and they were kind of brushing me off, not dealing with me. And the second a New Age person took me seriously, I ran into the arms of New Age, because I thought, well, here's the answer. And I wasn't doing it rebelliously. I was so deceived at that time, I thought I was still practicing Christianity. I thought that New Age was just a branch of it that could be incorporated and that gave us more answers than the Bible did. I was really deceived. But that's what launched me into it. It was from people telling me what I know was real was not real. So there are interpretations that I think can be potentially harmful. But I think right now, post this announcement by Trump, right now, as many of us that can, we need to unite. It is not time to divide. If somebody uses a wrong term or doesn't get it exactly right, all right, well, then that's our job to teach. Because if God gave us this knowledge, if God blessed us with this knowledge, we don't get to use it to then go club somebody over the head with it if they use the wrong word or if they don't have exactly the right interpretation. And I'm seeing these little factions form on social media because everybody, and it's within Christianity. Outside of Christianity, it's pretty much everybody believes it's extraterrestrials from another planet, the typical ancient aliens kind of thing. But within Christianity, I'm seeing these little factions kind of break off. And a lot of it seems to be what words do you use to describe it. And I would just say, if somebody's using an incorrect word, they're likely not doing it maliciously. They probably just don't know. And we as teachers, that's our job to teach. L.A. Marzulli has been doing this for 30 years? Something like that? He's been doing this for decades. He knows that it's his job to teach. If there are people that have a misconception that there's no physicality to these things, it's his job to go out there and teach that there is and teach why and give evidence. And he does that. He does that with his ministry. And it's great. So that's awesome. Totally on board with that. But at the same time, if somebody just doesn't know and they're using an incorrect term, I think the way that I would approach it is, hey, all right, you are on the right track. That's like, okay, so for example, let's just say if somebody says, because this is a common one, aliens are demons. All right, hey, you're on the right track. Now, I think there's a difference between demons and fallen angels, and I understand that not every Christian believes that. I was brought up that they were the same. I don't believe so anymore. Here's some reasons why. But I'm really glad that you see that these things are being deceptive. And, while I might not use the word demons, I might say fallen angels or fallen watchers or something like that. You're on the right track. So, hey, if you want to go deeper, here's some resources. If not, just stay with God, be with God, and we'll keep each other in prayer, and good, we're on the same team. But now, of course, there is a problem because sometimes you try to be like that with people, and some people will just fight against you no matter what, and then you can't really do anything with that. And I have seen that too. But a lot of times it's just random people that might not be as invested in or have studied not only the alien phenomenon stuff, but the ancient texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and early church fathers and all that stuff. So I think we just need to have some patience and some grace, but now is the time for us to unite, and it's time for us to teach. And it's time to give grace where grace is due. I count it as a win if somebody says aliens are demons. I count it as a win because, hey, they're on the right track. Yeah, maybe it's not technically the exact right word that I would use, but hey, in our modern parlance, in in the way that most of the world talks about spiritual beings when they kind of lump them all into one group. That's just kind of what people have been taught to do. If they can get as far as recognizing that aliens are demons, even though that's not exactly how I would phrase it, great, okay? So then let's see if they want to go further. Hey, that's awesome. If you want some more information, though, here's something. Check out Genesis 6. And also, if you want to know where demons come from, check out the book of Enoch. And when you look at actual demonic beings and you look at these supposed extra, alien, when you look at these supposed aliens, it actually turns out that these beings presenting themselves as aliens seem more in line with the fallen watchers rather than demons. Isn't that interesting? And try to pique their interest. Like it's a fascinating thing. But if we come at them and we're just like, well, technically, blah, blah, and we just like basically embarrass them online for not having the exact right way of framing it, again, just like what happened to me, it's going to send them elsewhere. You're not going to be able to teach them anything. It's just nobody learns that way. And think about it. Do you learn that way? I've never learned anything from anybody that takes that approach with me. I don't think anybody does. It's not a good approach. So if the goal is to know more than other people and to prove that, then be divisive. But if the goal is to teach truth and want to get people saved and want to get people to understand what this phenomenon is all about, then there's a way to go about it that doesn't alienate people. Excuse the pun, no pun intended, actually. There's a way to go about it that doesn't alienate people and make their defenses go up. There's a gentle yet bold way to do it. A loving yet truthful way to do it. And our heart needs to constantly be on that. What is our goal? Why did God bless us with this knowledge about what these things really are? Is it just so we can show how smart we are? No. We need to use that to help other people. Get them saved if they're not already saved. If they are saved and they have a misconception about it, gently correct it if that's something that they are even interested in looking further into, because a lot of people that say stuff like that, they're not really interested in going that much deeper into it. And now again, there are going to be times where people that have a more broad kind of incorrect view of it, even if they're on the, it's evil side, there are going to be times that they will be really divisive and they won't want to hear from you. And then that is the time to just back off from them and say, all right, Lord bless you. Pray for them, but that's the time to just back off because it's not worth the division. And I know backing off from people is a kind of division, but it's not worth constant back and forth fighting and then having that as like a really bad witness online. It's just time to just, all right, you said your piece. I'm clearly not going to be able to help you, so pray the best for you. Lord bless you, and that's it. So I'm just worried because I'm already, it hasn't even been, at the time of this recording, it hasn't even been a full day yet since Trump made that announcement, and already I'm seeing a lot of these factions breaking off within Christianity, and a lot of it seems to be what terms do you use, how do you define it, even though pretty much everybody agrees it's evil, and it's not what the mainstream world interprets it as. And that's almost like tribalism, or it's almost like a groupthink thing. And I don't think we need to be doing that. Again, if somebody is being actually destructive, then you do need to break off from them. If they're actually like attacking you, for example, LA is a good example of this. He's been attacked a lot. Like he's like just about more than anyone I ever know who doesn't deserve it, who's undeserving of it. He gets attacked a lot. And so there are times where you're just doing your job, you're just following instructions from the Lord, and people will attack you, and the best thing to do is to just not deal with that person anymore. Not and move on, But that's not as much of what I'm seeing happening on social media. On social media, again, it's just a lot of these little factions breaking off into these little separate groups, and everybody's kind of got their own idea and their own interpretation. And it's like, come on, guys, where's the grace? You know, we can have grace with each other. It's okay if they technically got a term wrong or a word wrong. That's okay. That just means that we need to do our job as teachers, and we need to even more teach about these things. And I think that that's the time more than anything to do. Not focus on what your brother or sister, you know, whatever. Not focus on these little factions and not getting irritated and angry about it, but going out and teaching the world what these things really are, at least to the point that they recognize that it's something evil. At least to that point. And they because ultimately, we want to point people to Jesus. So as long as we can get somebody to see Jesus and to believe in Jesus, as long as we can get somebody saved, if they don't want to go any deeper than, you know, well, these things are clearly evil, and if they use the word demonic or whatever, and they just don't really have an interest in going deeper than that, that's okay. Just like with the double slit experiment. I'm okay if somebody doesn't want to go deeper and actually learn what that experiment really shows. As long as they, and even if they don't use all the correct terms, the correct quantum physics terms that I know, but they may not, as long as they know, well, that experiment clearly doesn't show that. I am not my own God. There's only one God, and it's not me. And I submit to Jesus, and I'm not trying to manifest my own reality around me. If I want something, I'll ask Jesus. You know, as long as I can get him there, I'm happy. You know, then that's good, because ultimately it's all about Jesus, not our little minor differences in how we interpret these things. Okay, so for some resources on this intro is going a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but this is really important. And it again, the time that we have just entered into is unprecedented. For some good resources, of course, I'm biased, but Return of the Watchers, I just put this book out not too long ago. I think that can help out a lot. You can get it at prophecywatchers.com. And of course, Prophecy Watchers as a whole has a lot of resources about this stuff that is really good. And of course, I would suggest the work of L.A. Marzulli, who I'm going to show you that interview in just a minute. Actually, let's get to that first. Please make sure you subscribe to this channel. Click the bell to turn on all notifications. Share this around with your friends and family, especially if they're under the mainstream view of what UFOs are. Share with them this so they can get another perspective. Now, this interview is actually split into two parts. And again, this was all done before that announcement was made. I might have done it differently had I known that was going to happen. Maybe not, but I think it's going to work out fine. So for those who might not have heard, the past couple of weeks or so, instead of doing one long video where the second half, where the whole video is available on dailyrenegade.com, but only the first half goes up on YouTube, I decided to make it a little easier. So we're now doing two parts. Part one of this video, if you're watching this on YouTube right now for free, then part one you get for free. That's free everywhere. That's free on dailyrenegade.com. I've opened that up. That's available everywhere. Now, if you want part two, instead of having one long video, what we've done is we've made sections in 3 different places, so you can just go based on your preference what works best for you. dailyrenegade.com will have part two. You can also find part two under for a YouTube membership. So in the videos, there's members only videos on YouTube. And what's great about that is if you sign up for that, you can watch it on your TV and stuff. So a lot of people like having that option. And the third option is Substack. Now on Substack, I offer the transcript of the interview. I also offer the audio only podcast. So that's audio only. And for those, that's just $5 a month or $50 a year. But if you want the videos too, and you want all of the other stuff, so videos, podcast, and the text, you can sign up for an all access, like an unlimited all access membership. And across all 3 platforms, it's all the same price. So the idea isn't that you need to get all three. It's just whatever works better for some people. Some people prefer Substack. Some people prefer YouTube. Some people prefer DailyRenegade.com. By the way, DailyRenegade.com, when I have transcripts, I make those available in PDF format so you can actually download them. Substack, it's like on a web page, so it's like a blog. Okay, so that's how the part 1 and part 2 will work. So I think that's all I have to say for this half an hour long intro. I am really sorry, guys. I didn't go into this expecting it to be so long, but it's just really important. And I mean, this is the topic that first threw me off into New Age. What was this and aliens, and how do we fit that into the Bible? So it's really important to me personally. I know it is to you out there, but even outside of myself, it's really important to the world right now. We are living now in a day that is completely unprecedented, and we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if no files really get released and it's just all redacted and nobody really learns anything and there's no proof. And, that's the safe bet is it's probably going to be something like that. But what if it's not? What if there is actually something there and the world is like, how do we interpret this? And again, by and large, the world isn't going to listen to us, but some will. Some will. And we need to be like that. We're, as Jesus said, as in the days of Noah. Well, what did Noah do? Noah was a preacher of righteousness that entire time, even though nobody listened. He just had his own family. That was it. But he still preached the truth, even though no one listened. We need to do that. The benefit of our day is some people will listen. Some people do listen. When I first heard this from LA, I listened. This is what got me into ministry. This is what got me out of New Age, was LA being obedient to the Lord and sharing this information on TV. And I happened to catch an episode of a show he was on, and he answered all my questions. He answered everything about aliens, UFOs, the sleep paralysis stuff, New Age. He answered it all within 20, 30 minutes. And because of that obedience, because he did that, now I'm in ministry. I've completely renounced the New Age. I rededicated my life to Christ at that time when I did that, and I myself got into ministry, and that's why there's a Josh Peck and a Daily Renegade and all of this. So one little act of obedience. But I'll tell you one thing though, because I'm human and this is just how people are. At that time, if I didn't have exactly the correct interpretation, but I was on the right track, and if LA would have commented on something of mine and corrected me really, really harshly, I would have turned away from it. It would have been like a kick in the stomach. I would have turned away from it, and I would have been like, ugh, no matter where I go, no matter what I do, everybody's a jerk. Nobody can just meet me where I am. I wouldn't have responded to it. And pretty much no one will respond to that tactic. So again, I'm just saying, I love everybody that's willing to talk about this stuff, but let's be gentle and patient, and let's just teach the truth. And let's not get offended or irritated or annoyed, because all that stuff comes from pride, when some random person online might have not exactly the right phrasing that we would use. We don't want to fall into our own pride, our own sense of superiority, because we know things that other people don't know, and then allow that to get us irritated when somebody doesn't get it. And believe me, I've had that happen myself. I've had to repent of it. It's sin. It's rooted in pride. I've seen it in myself. I've done that before, years ago, especially when I was very, very new into this stuff. It's just an easy thing to fall into, and all of us human beings need to be aware of the fact that that's going to be a temptation. When you have information that somebody else does that most people don't have, it's going to be a temptation to feel superior, even if you don't consciously recognize it as that. But if somebody's using the wrong word and they're on the right track, and you're finding yourself irritated or annoyed, and you want to snap back at them, best thing to do is say nothing, because you could actually be turning that person completely off to the whole thing. Because again, that's what happened with me. That's what happens to a lot of people. All right. All that being said, I love you all. Thank you so much for being patient with me. Speaking of patience, thank you in advance for being patient with me for this long intro. Probably the longest one I've ever done for a for an interview. But again, it's important. So all that being said, here is my interview with L.A. Marzulli. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Sharpening Report. I am your host, Josh Peck. Tonight we have a very special guest, friend of the show, L.A. Marzulli. L.A., how are you doing?
Josh, great to be here as always. Great to see you, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, anytime. It's been a while. I'm glad that we were able to make time to do this, especially on such short notice. I actually didn't have a guest this week, and I had sent out a few emails, and I realized that when I sent the email for your invite, it was on Valentine's Day. Afterwards, I was like, oh, shoot. He's probably wanting to spend that with Peggy. But I really appreciate you making the time.
Well, it's always good to be here, and you know, you're just a prolific author and a great researcher, and you know, it's good to sharpen iron, as it were, sharpening reports. So it's good stuff.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot, and I learn from the best. So I really appreciate that. So we have to talk about this new virtual conference that you just released. Can you give us a little bit of info on that?
Yeah, what happened was the Age of Disclosure film was released, and Peggy and I watched it that night. Friday night, I think it was released in December, early December, right after Thanksgiving. And I was just blown away by it because this was in your face. We are not alone. There were generals, admirals, congressmen, congresswomen, scientists, physicists, whistleblowers like David Grush, whistleblowers like Lou Elizondo, you know, head of ATIP, Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program. Are all saying the same thing, looking right at the camera. We're not alone. We're not alone. We're not alone. And I was flabbergasted. And I said, we have got to push back. And originally we were going to do it like 2 weeks from that. I mean, we're just going to do it right before Christmas. And Mondo Gonzalez said, we should wait, give it a little bit of time, and let's do it in January, which is what we did. We pushed it back a few weeks. And it was the 16th and 17th of January. And so these are the speakers: Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzalez, Josh Peck, Derek Gilbert, Karen Wilkinson, Vicky Joy Anderson, Tim Alberino, Larry Ragland, Alan DiDio, and Al Matthews. I mean, for $19.99, creme de la creme, abductees, speakers, people have been probing this thing, written books on it like yourself. So all 10 people, you can go to lamarzulli.net. You can still watch it. Originally, we had 2 films that we showed for free. So now it's like, you know, people go, why so cheap? Because we want to get the word out. We want to get the message out. And that's why it's, you know, most people charge $70, $80, $90 for a conference like this. We charge $20.
That's a great price, a great deal. So yeah, everybody should go check that out. And it's phenomenal information, a great lineup of guests. Of course, I'm a little biased because I'm part of it too, which thank you for inviting me for that, by the way. I had a great time putting it together, and it was an honor to be a part of it. And it's such a timely discussion because of everything that's going on. And I think Christians really need to be informed. And I think this virtual conference is a great way to do that. Why do you believe that governments and institutions like Congress are gradually pushing for UFO disclosure now after decades of denial? What do you think they're still hiding from the public?
Well, you know, that's a really loaded question. It really is. And it's just, in some ways, it's like a 3-hour discussion. It goes back to Roswell, you know, 79 years ago, the cover-up that ensued. It goes into the back engineering of technology. Think the 90s with Bob Lazar, George Knapp, who brought that forward. The secret Area 51 base, which, as far as I know, and this is conjecture, did Richard Nixon get in there? We think he did, with Jackie Gleason, and showed him the stuff. All that went away. All that went away. I don't believe a sitting president has been there since Ike Eisenhower. That's my personal take. I can't prove it. You know, Obama recently stated, "Oh, what's that? That's nothing. That's the stuff of conspiracy." And then Trump pushes back just today and says, you know, he had no business saying that. Like a little slap on the wrist. Barack, classified information, you're in a heap of trouble. So it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it really is.
Why now? And is it because they're being pressured by them to do it, which is a strong possibility? Are they being pressured by them, by the so-called extraterrestrials, fallen angel? Is there some sort of a quid pro quo that was done, like the Book of Enoch, where there was a treaty where, okay, after so many years, you have to reveal? I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about with all this coming to light. Something else you talk about too, and you go through this in your books and films. How do phenomena like UFO portals or abductions, which you've explored in a lot of your work, fit into the broader narrative of a coming great deception as described in Scripture?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth on this. Some people look at the First Thessalonians chapter that talks about chapter 4. No, I think it's Second Thessalonians chapter 4. Forgive me, where it says, do not be troubled in word or deed, that the coming of the Lord has come and are gathering to him, that they will not happen until the apostasia happens. And so there's all this. What does that mean? Does it mean the rapture? Does it mean a falling away? Does it mean the apostles of Israel? Well, okay, so we'll put that to the side. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 4. There it is. The Spirit expressly states that in the latter days some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrine of demons. There it is right there. I mean, it makes it really clear some are going to depart, which begs the question. Remember, Paul is traveling through time here. He's traveling through time. The Spirit of the living God is showing him the future. So what's the latter days? Some people will say, well, what is the latter days? Well, the fact that Israel has been regathered back into its ancient homeland, Amos 9:14 and 15. I will bring that to captives of my people, Israel. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them. They will also plant gardens, eat the fruit from them. I will bring them back into their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of a land I have given them, says Lord your God. 1948, May 14th. That starts the end time clock ticking. And, people have written on this. Hal Lindsey blew the market open with that whole thing, the late great planet Earth. And he was, of course, alluding to the fact that the end time clock starts with Israel being regathered into the homeland. Classic dispensational thought, which is what we both are. So you've got that going on, and it's not going away. That starts the whole clock, end time clock ticking, but that starts what I believe is the coming great deception. That's where we get the first abductions, Betty and Barley Hill, that we know about. Crop circles begin to pop up. They're very primitive at first, just a circle, but then they become more elaborate. The abduction phenomena starts, Betty and Barley Hill, but it really takes off from that. Whitley Strieber, the thing goes viral, his books. Sightings go through the roof. The disinformation campaign begins. I mean, it's very, very complex. We could spend hours just talking about that. If Donald Trump stands up and announces that we are not alone in the universe, it's a game changer. And this is why we did our conference, our virtual conference, to push back against the prevailing narrative and state that these are not extraterrestrials. They are interdimensional entities, i.e. fallen angels and demons, who have very, very nefarious agenda. Just look at the implant. And we were the only Christian ministry on the planet to ever take out an implant. That's a meal. We show it in our film, in our Watches series. So the phenomenon is real, burgeoning, not going away. So what happens if Donald Trump stands up and announces that? How does that affect the church? How does that affect, John and Betty in the pew that they've been sitting in for 20 years and raising a family in that church and everything else that goes with it? How does it affect their faith? And I go back again, 1 Timothy, right, chapter 4, the Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, and we're here, I just showed you why we're in the latter days with Israel coming back to the homeland, some, not all, but some, and he doesn't give us a number, will depart from the faith, giving heed to what? Seducing spirits, doctrine of demons. We have a tract that we published. This is channeled information. It's channeled information from a woman that's allowing this entity to possess her for a time. And this is what she says. If human beings do not change, if they do not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth they could not be here, then Earth and its love for its own initiation is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. So what is this cleansing? I'm glad you asked. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. They've explained the way the rapture of a church, for crying out loud.
Hey everyone. Concerning the economically unstable times that we live in, it is a great idea to convert some of your savings into real money. Now, there is a big difference between real money and what we call money, which is actually currency. So, our dollar is currency, which fluctuates. Real money, like silver, is a store of value over time. The best way to think of it is like this: if you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 60s, the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000 today, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. Now, if you saved that same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, it would be around $28,000 today. So, one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically, silver. Now, you can buy and have the metal shipped discreetly to your door. And what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even your 401k into physical silver rather than having all your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is, of course, subject to hyperinflation. So go to dailyrenegade.com right now and click on the Cornerstone Asset Metals banner and sign up to get your free silver report. One of the financial experts will speak with you and find out the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times. You can also click on the link in the description below that goes directly to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Make sure you tell them that Josh Peck at Daily Renegade sent you. It is time to stop trusting the evil beast financial system of the world and protect your assets today. You must be a prophet because it's funny, you just brought up what my next question was going to be, was how the UFO phenomenon connects to the rapture and other prophetic events. Sorry to cut in, but yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, that's what it is. It's channel information. They've already explained the way the rapture of a church, that some people who do not fit here any longer will be taken up. And that's exactly what's going to happen. You know, America is not in prophecy. America is the bastion of Christianity, no doubt about it. So, you know, there's over 300 million, was it 320 million people in the United States? What if 200 million people vanish that are born again, spirit-filled believers, which, you know, that number may be high. I don't know. But he's going to come back. What? And that's why we're not in prophecy, in my opinion, because we're raptured out of here before the tribulation starts, which makes sense. So it's complex. I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. This is why we watch, we wait, we report. But they're rolling this thing out, Josh. They are rolling it out.
Yeah, and speaking of which, how should Christians, both pre-rapture and post-rapture, let's say somebody after the rapture got saved and they're watching this, or they're still able to see this, how should believers respond to this increasing UFO disclosure and sightings? Is there a way to discern truth from deception in media reports and governmental narratives?
It's very, very difficult to do that. And you know, with the advent of AI, you don't know what you're looking at. And then, you know, with the backroom deals and the secret agendas and everything else, what is the truth? Remember, what is it? Isaiah 59, 14 and 15. It states this: honesty cannot come in. Let me just make sure I got this right. Hold on. No, that's not it. Truth is strong on the street. I'm trying to get this down here. Righteousness stands far off. Truth is thrown to the street, and honesty cannot come in. So it's alarming. Truth is thrown to the street, which is exactly where we are. We don't know what the truth is anymore. I mean, someone sent me a clip, which I looked at, and, well, I don't know what I'm looking at. Anybody can make this. So I Googled it, and AI, and you can't trust AI either, but AI said, you know, no, this was done. You know, Trump basically gave Barack a little slap on the wrist there, saying, hey, you shouldn't be talking about this stuff. You're breaking protocol. So, but this is where we are. You don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what's real, what's fabricated. So I think we're close to seeing something. I mean, if Trump stands up, and there's talk on July 9th, the 79th year of the alleged Roswell crash, which of course happened. That's why we have a little piece of metal that we discovered in the debris field. There it is right there. So for those of you who think there's no physicality, we put this under a scanning electron microscope. That's hard science. It's an aluminum alloy that fits between two known aluminum alloys. It doesn't match anything. And there are three pieces that were tested at three different labs. Chuck Zukowski's piece, same thing, between two known aluminum alloys. Frank Kimber's piece, same thing, between known, but it doesn't match anything. Our piece doesn't match anything. It's close, but it doesn't match anything. So what are we looking at here? And by the way, this nail was found in a debris field. They spiked the field, Josh. They came in and drove spikes in to throw off the metal detectors. Frank Kimber knew about this. We found one. So he moved us outside of where the spikes were. And sure enough, that day we found two, I don't think it was three, but it was definitely two. We are the only film crew, according to Chuck Zukowski, the only film crew on record to ever actually show a piece of the metal being dug up out of the ground. Some people go, oh, look what we found. And it's in there. No. We did it. And it's all on film. That's what the metal looks like.
That's really interesting.
We did it. It's all on film. Yeah. I mean, and it's so for those who maintain that this is all demonic delusion, maybe you should start thinking again. For those of you who think that it's a Nazi bell, maybe you should think again, because we did a film on, it's called Exoneration. It's on Jesse Marcel Sr. But I interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr., I interviewed his wife, I interviewed his daughter, I interviewed his best friend. And I mean, they were there. Marcel Sr. saw it. And in the film, in our film on Roswell, thank you, Gil Zimmerman, my business partner, Jesse Marcel Sr. is back in the debris field, probably decades after he was there originally. He looks right at the camera and he talks about the press conference. And he said, well, I was there and they wanted me to speak in the microphones, but I didn't do that. He's real honest. I didn't do that. There's something I just didn't do. I wasn't comfortable with it. So General Ramey said that, it was a weather balloon. And then he pauses. He looks right at the camera. He says, but we both knew differently. I mean, what do you do with that, right? It's like, what does a guy gain from saying that? I mean, he's sort of a Lee Harvey Oswald of ufology. So that's it. I mean, it's been a cover up for 79 years since the event. It was not a weather balloon. Definitely not a weather balloon.
I have just started a Substack. What is a Substack, you might ask? It is a place that contains early access to audio-only podcast versions of full Daily Renegade videos, plus my personal blog, which includes original articles, show notes, interview transcripts, and so much more. This is the only place to get this amazing resource, and it is not available to the general public. Adding a subscription to my Substack to your Daily Renegade membership will ensure that you have full access to every format of everything that I do. So head on over to joshpeck.substack.com or click on the link in the description below to join up now for only $5 a month or $50 a year. And if you can do it, I suggest doing the $50 a year because it's cheaper in the long run and essentially you get 2 months for free. So I cannot wait to see you there. Take care and God bless. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and it's interesting the time that we're living in where all this stuff is coming out. And I'm so glad that you did this virtual conference, and I really want people to check it out. What were some of the most surprising things that came out that some of the other speakers said? Anything that like people might not have heard of or might not be aware?
Well, for me, it was all pretty much, the status quo standard. I mean, I've been doing this for 3 decades, almost 4 decades. So there was nothing really new in the sense of, oh my gosh, this is the picture of an alien that we found, nothing like that. But every single speaker looked at the phenomenon from their particular vantage point and said the same thing. This is what stands out to me, that this is demonic. These are the fallen ones. This is deception. And the American people and the church needs to wake up and understand what we're looking at. And that was, I mean, to me, that's the overarching theme. That's my takeaway. Everybody, there was no equivocation by any of the speakers. This is happening. You need to prepare. You need to wake up because it might be sooner than any of us think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, and even just looking around the rest of the world and other things that are happening, everything is happening exponentially faster, and faster. And so Yeah, we have to be really prepared for this, and I think a virtual conference like this can help equip Christians to be able to know how to answer these questions. Where is the best place for people to watch the virtual conference?
It's just go to the website, lamarzulli.com. It's right there. And once you sign up, you can watch it at your leisure. You don't have to sit and watch 8 hours of people presenting, but it's there. You need to do your homework. I mean, some of these people, well, I mean, like yourself, that have been involved, Derek Gilbert, involved in you and Derek. I mean, some of the speakers were just incredible. They've been immersed. Al Matthews, I mean, that's the price of admission. This guy's a lifelong abductee. He came with Jesus and everything changed. So, I mean, there's a lot of great. Karen Wilkinson, my gosh, she was abducted since she was 5 or 6 years old. I mean, all the speakers bring something that's really incredible to the table. And the church has to learn to do its homework. That's why it's only $20. It's 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks, for crying out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no excuse for anybody to not check this out. So, yeah, everybody go to the website, check it out. Also, we're going to roll into part 2 here, which is the members only video. Before we do, though, in part 2, we're going to talk about your book, LA, Rungs of Disclosure. But before we do that, just so it's here in the free part, so as many people as possible can get this, where can people pick up your book, Rungs of Disclosure?
Yeah, it's just lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com.
Great.
There are 18 rungs in the book. We are up to rung number 26 right now. And the way you do that, the upgrades, you go to rungsofdisclosure.com. Bam, everything's a video instead of written. So you sit down and watch number 19, 20, 22, 25. This book was released in October, not last year, but the year before. So 2024 is when it was released, and we're up to rung number 25, number 26. I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Absolutely. And that's phenomenal, too, because way back when that first book came out, we did talk about it on Sharpening Report. I believe it was number 375 or 376. But since then, so much new stuff has come out and developed. So I can't wait to get into it. So for everybody watching right now on YouTube, if you're watching for free, we're going to do part 2. So it's going to be a separate video, and you can get that. The best place to get it is dailyrenegade.com, or you can become a member on YouTube, actually. We've opened that up, and you can get it there, and it's the same price of admission as dailyrenegade.com. And then we also opened up a third option if you prefer Substack. We started doing Substack videos, so you can become an unlimited all-access member. Again, same exact price, and you can get all videos there that we don't put up publicly for everybody. So we're going to end part 1 here. Thank you all so much for watching. Please come join us in part 2. All of the links are in the description below. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the first half of this episode of the Sharpening Report. If you are a Bible-believing Christian who opposes the kingdom of darkness trying to run the world right now, then you are a renegade to the satanic system. We here at Daily Renegade wear that badge proudly. So, if you're a renegade as well, and you want to see the rest of this video, head on over to dailyrenegade.com right now and get a membership today. Not only will you get the rest of this video, but you'll get our full catalog of Sharpening Report episodes and Daily Renegade update videos on topics such as Bible prophecy, science, technology, the Nephilim, aliens, and so much more. All of our episodes at Daily Renegade are early access, so as a member, you'll get the videos before anyone else does. Daily Renegade also offers videos not available anywhere else due to social media censorship. We also have a community page only for members where we can all fellowship together without fear of censorship. It's basically the best of Facebook and YouTube rolled into one without any of the garbage. Memberships are only $10 a month or $100 a year, and if you can do it, I suggest getting the $100 a year because it's cheaper in the long run, and essentially you get 2 months for free that way. So come join our family of renegades at dailyrenegade.com right now. The link is in the description below, and we'll see you there.